It's Wednesday, October 2nd. I'm Adam Walsh, and this is The Signal. And it's a tech show today. We're going to speak with folks whose local companies are disrupting traditional industries. You will hear how their ideas have grown to companies that are bringing safety solutions to the real world. All right, we got a packed house here today, which I always love. Tech, it can be a massive disruptor for industries, right? Think Airbnb, think Uber, look at print media. Here's some names. So I was doing some, reading for the show today, and I was looking at CNBC's 2023 disruptor companies. OpenAI, you might recognize that name. Canva, Discord. These are names that if you don't recognize them, you're going to, the next week or two, you will hear them and be like, oh, that's the thing that Adam mentioned on that show. The thing about these disruptor companies, and that list of 50 from CNBC for the last year, and these are big companies, right? They have social, environmental purpose. It's the core of their business model. You're talking climate change, sustainable development, healthcare, financial inequities, inefficient global supply chains, right? A lot of times with tech, it's about looking at a problem and solving it, and that's where the company comes from. Dee McIsaac, we'll get to everyone here, but I'll go to Dee McIsaac first. Success Manager, Enterprise, Genesis. Thanks for coming in for the show today. So that's my little blurb for the beginning. Can you help pad that with some context around the discussion we're going to be having and what we're talking about today?
Wow, that's a wide open field. Thanks for having us
here
today.
You have 54 more minutes to go.
All right. Let me tell you, I started when I was 5. So the disruption piece, that is kind of central to everything we do at Genesis. So for those who don't know, Genesis is Newfoundland and Labrador's tech incubator. So we are the place when you want to be the next Facebook or the next Uber, et cetera, et cetera. Our programs are designed to help you do just that. So if you have an idea, if you live in Newfoundland and Labrador, or if you want to move here and be here in this amazing place with an idea to build a company that is tech related, we want you to get in touch with us. That's what we do. And those ideas, to your point, usually are disruptive in nature. So, I have a problem. I don't like the way this certain thing works. I'm not happy with how I have to work around this thing or this idea, and I wish there was a better way to do it. Often companies are started exactly like that, where I'm just going to figure it out. I'm going to go do it, and all of a sudden there's this thing that you've made, or someone has helped you make, and I think I could sell this. And that becomes the ideation phase of a tech company.
So for with the pipeline where Genesis comes in, what are some examples of folks coming up with something and then putting it out into the world for solving things?
Wow. Well, these fine companies that are here with us today have to plug that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give an example of you put me on the spot here. I don't want to call it a single company because they're all really great.
Or, you can just give even general examples, right? Because you've got folks looking into the fast food industry, right, for certain bits. There's, did Misa go through Genesis as well? Because just for a local tech company, right? Like folks, these are names folks will recognize for things that they're kind of tossing out there for making, for solving some stuff.
Yeah, they did. But again, that was before my time. I don't want to incorrectly speak to their problem that they solved. Yeah. But take the example that everyone should know from Newfoundland and Labrador, which is Verifin. Great. So they came in and
they're doing okay.
They're doing okay. They're
better than okay.
They're nice guys. They're nice guys. But as the story, as I understand it, again, that was a long time ago. I wasn't part of the accelerator or incubator at the time, but it was a couple of brothers, and I think one of their friends had this idea as engineers. We're going to build robots for mining. Yeah. Because mining is, I've worked in mining. It's a very industrious place and opportunity for safety and problems and all this great stuff. So let's build robots for mining. Awesome. They come to work at Genesis, and they're doing great. They're building this amazing technology, and they're introduced to someone who says, hey, I think you guys are great founders. You're really capable. You're onto something cool. I've got an idea that I think would interest you, and there was a connection made. I'm not privy to the exact details,
broad strokes,
but they were connected to this person with this idea saying, financial crime is on the rise. There's a huge problem with being able to track and understand money laundering, which is tied to all these really bad things that happen in the world. We think you can do something with that based on what we know about you and the things you've done. And so that was a problem that was identified by someone who was connected, and connections are a huge part of the startup ecosystem. They were connected with the right person, were able to pivot, and then build something that solved a real life problem, which is kind of, again, central to the entire thing behind startups is, are you solving a problem?
All right. Well, that's great jumping off.
I don't know if I answered your question at all.
No, you did, and I think it gives good context for, because like whenever we do these shows, I like the fact that I feel we're all learning about the tech industry together. So when I have folks like you guys in here today, it's very helpful to start like, okay, what's a good example that people have seen and heard in the news? Got it. And now let's go to some other companies that they may or may not have heard from, but we're going to jump off at that problem side of things, right? And let's go with that. Alan, let's go. Like, give us the introduction of you and your company, and tell us about the problem that you're solving. And then we'll do it with the rest of you guys too.
Sure. My name is Alan Smith. I'm one of the founders of Smart Door. We make overhead doors reliable and safe. So an overhead door is a big garage door, and the problem is they break. It's a simple problem. And if
They do break.
They break,
Yes.
right? The springs explode and send shrapnel everywhere. Then if you, say, are the owner of a mine, none of your mining equipment can get into the mine or get into a wash bay, and all of a sudden revenue is lost. It's a safety issue in terms of obviously, things that are falling apart. Also, just from operational standpoint, you might have to change it for the broken door. So we have a hardware monitor that goes on, and basically it's like inspecting your door. It's like a human inspecting your door 4 times a second. Our monitor does. Plus, it sees things that humans can't see. So that's our product. We've got a few test devices out now, and we're for this quarter we're rolling out about 10 to 20 prototypes to start collecting more data and proving out all the diagnostic capabilities.
So how did you end up in a position to have this idea?
So it wasn't my idea. It was I worked for a local tech company, and I saw the value in being part of a company that makes a product. And I used to talk to my friends who are in other industries, like not tech industries, and say, hey, if you see something, just call me up. And so I get a call from Corey one day, and he's like, this is something, is this possible? Is what he asked me. Could we build this? And I'm like, yeah, it would cost a lot of money, but like nothing you're saying is impossible. And about a month later, we actually went out and kind of priced it out. It was very expensive. And then he said, what if we did it in our spare time, threw a little bit of our own money behind it because I have the tech background. And yeah, so we gave it a shot and developed our first prototype, and we proved that it worked. And the version now we're putting out will be the third version of the hardware.
All right, excellent. I've got a lot more questions around that, but I'll continue the whip around. Let's go, Professor Salahi. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I was like, we'll mix it up. Tell us about your company.
Yeah, so I'm Solar. I'm co-founder and CEO of Enditive.
Yeah.
And at Enditive, we're developing a digital twin-driven safety monitoring solution for offshore and marine operations. In more plain English, I would say we have a sensor technology that can detect various types of gases in higher resolution compared to the current competitors in the market. And we use that for proactive safety measurements for companies in oil and gas, offshore energy, mining industry, and also manufacturing.
Hey, this might be a simple question, but why is that so important?
So the problem we're solving is basically the safety of the personnel in manufacturing plants. Currently, there are sensors and systems that people use to find the potential hazards in manufacturing plants. But the problem they have is the resolution of those sensors, and how long that it takes to detect those gases is around 25 seconds to 1 minute. So we're bringing that time down to around 1 second with our sensor technology.
I mean, that's a big difference, right? Like if you're looking at stuff you need to know about for if it's leaks or whatever else, 25 seconds to a minute, as opposed to 1 second, and what that can mean. I'm gonna kind of make an assumption here, but I'm just thinking like if you know sooner, you can react sooner, and that could be really important.
Yeah, exactly. So we're building a proactive safety management platform that can help companies find those hazards in a better way in real time, compared to the other solutions, which may take at least 25 seconds to 1 minute to find those. we also have a system of AI-driven analytics system that can use the data of last 3 months, 6 months, a year, and we use those information to find the trends and look for basically potential hazards before they happen. So there might be a leakage that nobody knows about, or like none of the systems in the facility, they can find it, but our system can detect that before it happens. Maybe like 6 months before that, maybe a year before that, but it gives you a heads up that, for example, this asset needs to be changed, or there's a maintenance required to be done here in this specific location.
You're helping folks be massively proactive.
Proactive rather than being reactive, yeah.
So that's safety, and I'm also assuming saving a lot of money.
Yes, so we started with the safety, and as you know, for industry that we work in, safety comes as the last in terms of where they are spending their money.
Yeah.
And if there's no regulations or any type of regulations is the driving force for companies to buy safety products. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the things that we need to work on that side in terms of this is the life of people. Mm-hmm. And if there's a potential opportunity or a potential device or a system, for example, mine, that can help people working in the field to better understand the potential hazards and safety issues, why we don't use it, because the regulation is the only stopping them, like the only driving force for the product to be bought.
And so, Lara, how did you get this idea? Like, where did the idea come from? I know, you did your PhD at Memorial University, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Was it through that, or was it something else? Or where does the idea come from for this?
So I did my PhD at MUN. My background is mechanical engineering. I had a friend who was in electrical engineering department, and he had an idea of a sensor, and he had a prototype of that. And I was working in Toronto, and I had a good experience of like how this system can be integrated into operations and manufacturing. And we basically took his sensor to the lab again here in Newfoundland, Memorial University, and checked that, see if we can kind of integrate it into a product that can be used for safety operations. And that's how the idea started, basically.
Excellent. All right, thanks for that. Let's go to the Veristart guys, I should say. You're both sharing a microphone. Thanks for that. There's like so many microphones in here. Give us the introductions of yourselves, and we'll kind of get into where the idea came from for Veristart.
Sure. So I'm Craig Hannum, co-founder and CEO.
Aj Pandy, Chief Technology Officer at Veristart.
And so Veristart, we're solving the problem of construction equipment access. So we're building a unique access control system for construction equipment. A lot of people don't realize that all this equipment uses basically one set of master keys, right? So if you have a Caterpillar, if you've ever been hired anywhere to operate a Caterpillar backhoe and you've got a CAT key, then you can use that CAT key to start any other Caterpillar machine pretty much anywhere in the world. And
that's wild, right? Like, because you maybe, if you're not in the industry, you may not think that's how that is.
When we do this pitch and we tell people why we're solving this problem, there's usually more than a few gasps of, really? And
I'm kind of picturing a Dragon's Den scene right now, to be honest. Right?
And so, it's been that way a very, very long time. What's changed now, of course, is, well, first of all, the technology is available now that we can build something to solve that problem, to make it to come up with a better solution. But also, what's changed is those keys that, for years you could get them. You could go into the dealership at Tormont or something like that, get a CAT key or whatever. But now you can order whole sets of these keys on Amazon for next to nothing, right? So $25, you can have a full set, operates almost all construction equipment. And
that's convenient, but also highly problematic.
Yeah, exactly. And it just shines a light on the problem that's been there forever, is that, people who own this equipment, and it's large, dangerous, expensive machinery, don't really have a system to control who's operating it. There are, some sort of solutions out there, but what we offer is pretty unique in the way we tackle the problem. And and also we're addressing it with a health safety focus, not just theft prevention. And that really resonates as well with the construction equipment owners who know, this equipment is dangerous, and we want to do everything we can to keep our employees as safe as possible.
So how does the health and safety, the security side I get, right? So it's like you're approving who's going to start the said vehicle, right? Got that. How does the health and safety side work?
Well, we've taken a unique approach on it. So as we've mentioned, today anybody who has that key in their hand could start this machine, and whether they know how to use it or not, they could be a dangerous menace on a job site or going through the front of a supermarket or whatever.
Which has happened, yeah.
Right? Which has happened, exactly. We've taken a different approach. We've developed a cloud application, a mobile app, and a hardware device. So basically, the crux of it is the operator can't start that machine unless he has the appropriate digital key on his phone.
Yeah.
And by then preventing, so the fleet manager can decide who can safely operate this machine and who can't.
Right.
And by specifically choosing who can operate that machine and verifying they have the training before they add them to the system, then we significantly improve safety. And safety on the job site is one thing, and then all these machines that are parked in mall parking lots next to schools and whatever, the added security and being able to indicate who can operate that machine is key.
Yeah, so like for some jobs, you need to be WMIS certified to go on the job site, or you need your first aid to go on the job site. In this case, it's like, well, in order to operate this vehicle, here's all the checks, and in order to get your digital key, all this needs to be put into our system, and once it's there, you are one of the people with the digital key who can operate the vehicle.
Exactly right.
Excellent. Where did the idea come from?
So I worked at United Rentals for many years.
Yeah.
And I remember so I started there way back in '99. And I remember back then, I'm an accountant by trade. And I remember somebody came in with this rings of keys and said, we need to order more of these for our drivers and mechanics and stuff. And I was floored. I said, you mean one set of keys operates all this equipment? After a while, you just come to accept it. It's just normal. But I remember being surprised back then. And so fast forward a lot of years, I believe it was June of 2022, some folks stole that excavator in Galway and drove it across the street and ripped the side out of the Scotiabank. And I had been working with some tech companies as CFO for hire. I had worked with some at Genesis. And I remember thinking, somebody must have solved this problem by now. And did the research, and there are companies out there, but they haven't developed the solution yet that's getting broad adoption. And so came up with the idea, and I had worked with Edge actually at another company. Edge is an electrical engineer. And I called him up to see, hey, do you think we can build this solution? And
Yeah, so you get the call, and you're
I get the call, and I was like, yeah, let's go meet. So he called me in August, and we met, I guess it was September when we got back. I was at my wife's in-laws, and we met for lunch. I was like, same sort of thing, gasp, what do you mean they're all the same keys? I said, yeah, we can definitely solve this. But my question then was, okay, it hasn't changed in 50 years, so why is it going to change now? But we went with it and got into the Evolution program. And we had done some market testing here as well as part of Evolution, just to kind of, verify that there's a need for the solution. And we were getting a lot of good input. And Craig had the foresight to reach out to an accelerator that was construction tech focused down in San Francisco. And we just wanted to get an interview, reach a bigger network. But we got selected, and one of 5 companies globally selected for that. So then suddenly we realized, wow, and this is backed by big construction companies.
Yeah.
So this is a problem set that they're seeing, not just here in Newfoundland, Labrador, but globally. And then we brought in another founder, Lou Lawrence, who had 40 years of experience selling to these same customers. And so then we were able to really validate, okay, the market exists. Now the next step is, can we build a product to solve this problem?
Huh. So guys, here's the question for the room then. You've all kind of highlighted the problems that you've seen, how you're trying to solve them, and I think people can understand how they're disrupting and could disrupt a bit for the industries that you're part of. How hard is it then to be a disruptor, to kind of push your way in? Because if it's solving a problem, people want it solved, it's like, great, excellent, we want this. But to develop a company, to get staff, to get the product out there, and you guys are all there's a certain amount of hardware involved here. What's this like? Who wants to jump on that?
I'll go. It's hard. I'm the technical guy, so I was able to put in the sweat equity to set up all of the software infrastructure to get things going.
Yeah.
And that was the idea because we knew how expensive it would be. But once we had that first prototype, that's what I went back to the guys and I'm like, well, what's next? And I went to the Tech NL conference actually that's on right now a few years back, and I ran into Aiden, another Genesis employee, and he's like, oh, come up to us. So I went through their programs, got accepted to enterprise, and then with their guidance, they show you the funding options, the investor options. So it's kind of everything is always changing. Right now, like investors, the interest rates are higher, so you need to get a little further along now.
Yeah,
it's not just a great idea, cool pitch deck, and a bunch of smart people. It's go out and sell a few, that type of thing. So you need to get is a chicken and an egg type of thing. So. We were fortunate enough, our founders, that we've all been working ourselves for a while, so we had enough money to kind of start to bootstrap. And then with some help from Genesis and the government of Canada, we got that version 3 prototype out there. But it is hard, and it's going to be hard even when we launch the product, this fall and then in the next year, going from, hey, I got 10 units to how am I going to get to 20, 50, 100? That scalability, that's going to be a challenge as well. I mean, it's a constant challenge, but.
So if I could jump in.
Yes, please.
I think you hit it on the head there where you said the scalability. If you're going to be disruptive, that means you've achieved a certain level or size of scope of what you've set out to accomplish. Can you talk to how hard it is for you particularly to move from where you are today, which is fairly early stage, with the solution validated, into the next stage where you're scaled? So what is your thought about how to do that and how hard that is?
Yeah, so I mean the ideal situation is we get the product out. So we have prototypes now that getting that funding took time. Right, so that took months and months, 7 months actually, to get enough funding to get the version 3 prototype or product done. So now we'll go out and prove it, and so the difficulty will be so we'll have paying customers. We do have everyone who's taking this is paying for it. That's the key. That's who we're looking for, people who want it, and then getting enough of them out there month after month, so you can go to an investor when it's time to scale, and that will be So these are all the difficulties: getting those sales, and then showing someone who you're asking for a bunch of their money, showing them that straight up graph, that hockey stick, boom, that says we're doubling every month, and the growth potential is huge. It's a garage, it's big garage doors which are worldwide. That convincing people that that it's possible to get that market share with their money, and that we're the people who believe in, and So as they call it, traction, getting to the point of we've got sales month after month, as a product people want. Getting there as a startup is really hard because it costs money and resources. And most startups right now, a lot of the people I talk to are very lean. So it's that's the biggest challenge. And I think most startups will say money is the biggest challenge, right?
And you must be having conversations with the folks, because you talk about prototypes, right? So what are the conversations like as you go from prototype 1 to 2 to 3, because is it listening to what the clients are saying and trying to improve it, or what's the process there?
Yeah. So the first one was it was on a door and worked, but it's like some of the components weren't made for a mining environment, for example.
Yeah.
So they're the challenges. Or if your overhead door is on a dock downtown with salt air blowing on it, these are just weird things that you don't quite think of right away. So for the first 3 iterations, these were the types of challenges we were having. It has to be good for an industrial environment. So industrial IoT is kind of the catch-all term for that. So with customers, we're fortunate enough to have something novel. So when we're telling them, hey, that your spring, the spring that tensions up the door, we can tell you when that's wearing out. You can't see when that's wearing out, but we can tell you that. And, we can let your procurement department know. So the supply chain, you're not waiting months for parts. You're ordering them ahead of time. And it's a $1,300 repair, not a $5,000 emergency fix. So when they say you can do that, we're like, oh, yeah, look, here's put it on the door and show you the healthier door. They're kind of like, wow. So we're kind of going above what they're even asking for at this point.
Yeah, it's that proactive thing, the Solar that you were talking about earlier too, right?
Yeah, I think one of the main issues here is when you're disrupting the market with something new, you need to have a sort of co-development with the big players in the market. And the reason for that is they have been using a solution for a long time. They need to see that value in your product, that is something new there that they can invest in. So we kind of take that type of perspective. We worked with customers and tested our MVP a few times with them, so they can see the value that it's bringing, that it has for them. And we're getting some good feedbacks, specifically from offshore and mining industry. And at the end of the day, they need to see that, for example, my sensor has these features that is different than other players in the market. And they need to see that value. So co-development, I think, is very important.
What about you guys?
I guess for us, I'll echo Alan's point that and I think the biggest challenge is getting from that 0 to 1, right? Getting it at those first units out there. And Aj mentioned the accelerator that we were part of in San Francisco. I mean, it was tremendous opportunity. We went down there in spring of 2023.
That must have been quite the thing, right? Because you're launching something, and then to be like, oh wait, we actually get to go, and we're going to San Francisco, which is, I don't know if people know, a bit of a tech reputation.
Yeah, it's got that reputation, right? Well, and what's amazing is, probably a year earlier, companies were pitching with pitch decks that maybe weren't as complete as ours, or the ideas weren't as complete as ours, and much more easily raising a couple $1 million to make this happen. So when you think about, like I mentioned, that 0 to 1, right? You got this idea, you've talked to customers, you've validated that customers are willing to pay for this, they want it, and you pitch. We pitched to investors in May. Actually, going back a few months before that, we were days away from jumping on the plane down to San Francisco, and Silicon Valley Bank collapsed.
Oh, great!
Our money wasn't in the bank yet. It all did work out, but the market for raising capital then just it got really dry. And so you got this idea. You know you need to build it. You know competition is going to build it as well. You need to go fast. It's really tough to get the money you need to build it fast, right? So a lot of companies in Newfoundland, and us no exception, you rely on those government sources of non-dilutive funding that really help, and they are tremendous, great partners to start up businesses and really help you, fine tune what you're going to work on and how you're going to develop it with that money and so on. But it takes so much time. It took us 7 or 8 months to get to that point where you had the first dollars in the bank, and that's a long time in a startup world.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and so added to that stress is sort of the roller coaster ride. So we're going to San Francisco. We're on a high one day, and within that same day, we're down in the gutter again. It is truly a roller coaster ride when you don't have money, but you want to get product out the door. You have customers that are very early stage, but they're interested. So how do you accelerate? So there's a slew of problems that you're always running into every day. So you have to have trust in the journey. Yeah. Because every day, day to day, there's going to be an issue that comes up, and at one point you're going to feel like, okay, awesome, we're doing great, and at the same day you might feel like, oh my God, it's all going to fall apart. Like we're one straw away from everything breaking. But if you can find the fortitude to have a trust in the journey, I think then that makes it a little bit easier. And there's a lot of macro environmental things like the interest rates going up. You can't control that, so you have to pivot and figure out what do we need to do. It might take longer to get money. It might take a shorter time if the timing was better. But you work through those macro environments. But it's tough. I find it really tough having that roller coaster. Whereas if you've worked in a larger company and been sheltered from that for a long time, it's you still have that little bit of a roller coaster, but it's a different environment. So That's one thing I've found difficult, but you have to kind of work through.
What's the success rate for startups?
Well, we were talking about that earlier, and saying it's like, 7 or 8 and 10 don't survive.
Yeah,
So it's pretty low.
I find it really. Go
I
ahead,
love
Dean.
talking about this, and,
Yeah.
and these are the stats I use. Again, finding the actual number in the real world is not
No.
really possible.
Yeah.
But broad strokes, 95, 99% of startups fail. It's like an incredibly high percent of startups fail at a long enough time horizon.
Yeah.
70 to 75% of those startups, based on what I can find, fail within years 2 to 5.
Yeah.
So that means this is really interesting because you spend 2 years with your idea, finding your friends to build it with you, getting a few dollars, putting a thing together, trying to get it validated, put it in the market. 2 years later, but then your chances of failure go up after 2 years. So you're spending your money. You're putting yourself at risk.
You're really
you're
putting
putting
the room
yourself
down,
out
Dean.
there. You're going up.
to the
You're
club.
jumping up and down on this branch
yeah.
on a limb, and
Yeah.
waiting to see what happens. But that's like that. But that's actually it's such an interesting point as someone who works at Genesis, where I usually encounter founders in that 2 to 5 year window.
Yeah.
They're usually about a year to 2 years in when they get into the enterprise program, and we have them for 3 years. So interestingly enough, we exist with them when they're most likely to statistically have that failure point. So it's really interesting. I wanted to go back to a point
Yeah,
about
of
the
course.
disruption with these companies. One thing I would say from my lens, what you guys have all done really well is in some way, shape, or form, and Solar, I think you said it really well, is you collaborate with the right people. I'm paraphrasing what you said. But you've got connections, deep connections into the customer base that you're going to sell to through your co-founders. You guys have you've got the experience in working in United Rentals, and you know that industry really well, and you've connected with the people who are willing to partner with you in appropriate ways to drive you forward. And same with you with your journey. Doug Kennedy has helped connect you to a bunch of amazing companies here locally and internationally, who works with Genesis. You've gotten in. You're now collaborating with them to co-develop, and I think that those connections into the appropriate vertical, which means the line of business you want to work with, would be it mining or be it oil and gas or any particular med tech or whatever it is. I think being aligned appropriately, whether it be with investors or with customers, is a fundamental thing that you guys have all done really well, and that's why you're becoming successful and doing moving that needle.
You're listening to The Signal. I'm Adam Walsh. It is a tech show today. We're talking about disrupting traditional industries, and we've got folks from the local tech industry here, Dean McIsaac, Alan Smith, Craig Hannum, Aj Pandey, Salar Salahi. So in the company, let me see. Well, Dean, it's Genesis. We've got Smart Door, Veristart, and Enditive. Everyone here in the room talking all about disruptions. And I'm curious, you all went through Genesis. Tell me about that experience. And because we're talking, so Dean was just laying out, was it year 2 to 5, or the failure rates and where they happen, but then being along the ride with Genesis and the support you get from that and meeting folks within the ecosystem. So talk to me about what the experience was like for you.
And I am looking at all of you when you're talking.
Yeah, he is looking and judging, right? Which is what he does.
We did the evolution program, which proves out your idea. So really, Genesis, to me, I just see that program as a big filter. It's validating the idea. It's validating that you are solving a real world problem, and the thing you're making is solving that problem. So we did that, and that was great. And you're meeting other entrepreneurs and founders along the way. So just that sense of community is really good. When we were done that, and we had our prototypes and everything going, Adrian, who's was running that program, said, "Hey, you guys should pitch for enterprise. Enterprise that comes with that access to some funds via Genesis and a bunch of perks. AWS credits, Amazon Web Service credits, just a bunch of things to help your business start out." So my experience here has been great. I have a space down at the they have a Single Hill campus there, the American Innovation Exchange. And as does everyone here, and you're around other entrepreneurs, you're sharing, we talk about our ups and downs together, support group some days, and But we help each other get through it. And then you got, Dean and Doug and Andrew. There's a whole slew of staff down there that are just 100% committed to helping you along your journey. So, the whole purpose, when we had kind of had the idea and the first initial prototype spec'd out and done, we were like, well, what next? We were all entrepreneurs, but we didn't know. I never started a tech startup before. I'm a tech guy, but I've never started one. So the what next was the question I asked, and I ended up with Genesis, and they lay out a clear path, and they make sure you're ready. That's the thing with the evolution program. You can't just, you show up to that program, and they're going to make sure you're ready and that what you're doing is valid, and they're going to show you how to do that.
Wow. What do you guys?
I can go next.
Yeah, sure.
My experience was kind of different than others because we did the evolution program back in 2021, I think. And then I iterated the idea for at least a year and then came back for Evo Plus. Took us around 5-6 months with Evo Plus, but I was also working somewhere else during the Evo Plus. But as soon as we got accepted to Enterprise, that became my full-time job as a founder of the company. And I think more than Genesis is offering a lot of perks like office, coffee.
Coffee's
Lots
important.
of coffee.
Yeah.
Very important.
But the biggest value I think I got was the networks and mentors here in Newfoundland. Obviously, I'm not from Newfoundland, but
You sound like you're from Bayburt.
I've been thinking that the whole time.
but yes, specifically as Dean mentioned, Douglas Kennedy, he helped us a lot to connect with companies here in Newfoundland, specifically in offshore and mining industry, to test our system, validate our idea, get some traction, and then go to investors and get some more money to develop more.
So then does the size of this place, because I hear this a lot, we've done a bunch of tech shows before. One of the things I hear about the local ecosystem, as they say, is the fact that this is not a big spot. So if you want to get someone on the phone, you can. Unlike in Toronto or Montreal or Vancouver or down in San Francisco.
Yeah, exactly. They help with that, and Genesis helps basically with that. They connect you with a lot of people that they already know, or they might don't know them. They just take the phone, have a phone call, and then they introduce you to them. And everybody is very welcoming to help you. And basically, they are open-minded about the technology that, for example, we have it. So I never get a no to test and validate.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, what about Veristart? Craig, Edge, what about you guys?
Yeah. So we did the whole journey. I remember. So I know Andrew from back in college days. I won't say the years because I don't want to out Andrew's age, but anyway, had this idea and called up my friend Andrew and said, "What do you think? What are the next steps?" And he said, "You've got to go through evolution. It's the key to sort of opening the doors." And it was great. So we did the evolution program. Basically, validate your idea with customers, or gives you tips and tricks to get you there. And then Evolution Plus program, which kind of helps you get ready and see if you're ready for the enterprise program. And then the enterprise program, for us, that was a really big stamp of approval. I mean, there are a lot of great companies going through Evolution and Evolution Plus. But then, there's an extra hurdle to get into enterprise. And when you can say that your company's in Genesis Enterprise, it raises a lot of attention and opens a lot of doors that otherwise might be tough. But then we were talking a minute ago about the sort of the whole ecosystem here.
Yeah.
And we Edge and I, both have networks going back several years in the tech space, but it really is incredible how much all the companies here help each other. I'm walking around the TechNL functions the last couple of days, and it's hard for me to find time to get to all the people who I owe a thank you to.
Wow.
For doing different things with us, helping us with the enclosure, giving us tips and tricks on the hardware, on how to prototype well, and what things that we should be worried about and what things are total baloney. Don't worry about that. That's that sort of thing. It's incredible. Yeah, I can't overstate it.
I just add to that. I think there's so many organizations here that are further in their journey with their startup or their company, and even learning institutions that just step up and help. And you wouldn't get that anywhere else probably in a larger center. But here, a win for any company is a win for the whole ecosystem. So that's the real strength. And I think going back to Genesis, the network's been a real strength as well. That connects us into that larger ecosystem, and you get to meet new people. And you get opportunities then to look back as we grow in our journey to help other companies. So it's certainly something's been established here. There's a real mantra of making sure you help everybody else, which is amazing. I think it's going to help us all get success.
Do you know word on pitch and pick?
Absolutely. So got a little note written down here for myself. So we talk. Can I talk for a second about Genesis programming and what?
Yeah, of course.
So I mean, for people who don't know, as a tech incubator, we have 3 levels of programming. It starts with evolution, which is I have an idea. You come and you participate in a cohort of people, usually 100 or so applicants a year. I think they take up to 25 companies in that 3 times a year. And at the end of each of those cohorts, you do a mini pitch and pick. The companies who have kind of done the work and proven that they have done the validation and they have something to present, get selected to pitch and say, hey, I'm pitching my idea now. I'm actually, I'm legit, for lack of better terminology.
Yeah, so they put together some kind of a presentation. They stand up, and then it's
in front of a crowd.
Yeah,
and it's like a high school or university presentation for 3 to 4 minutes. And here's an ask at the end. The second level of programming after Evolution is called Evolution Plus, which was created recently as a bridge programming before you get into enterprise to really make sure that you're prepared to take advantage of what enterprise is designed for. So you spend 3 to 9 months hanging around in the pre-incubation programming with Aiden and his team, and they make sure you're doing the right things. You've got an MVP built or a prototype at least. You've talked to enough customers to prove that you're valid, and you've got some form of traction plan, and you know what your financial plan will look like for a while. So you're kind of set up for success. Then you actually have to apply to get in enterprise. You have to be selected to apply. You can't just walk in the door and say, I want to be in enterprise. Aiden has to say, this company is ready. They need to pitch. They will actually pitch to senior members of the enterprise or the Genesis team. There will be a selection committee process, and if they're ready, they get accepted. Most people who traditionally over the years have wanted to come to enterprise think about the carrot, which is we offer $50,000 in non-dilutive, non-repayable funding. That's a lot of money. So the people want that, but what they find, I hope, is that all the other stuff is actually more important than that $50,000. Is the connections, the network, the community is actually one of the biggest things. Our 3 values are community, collaboration, and I'm going to miss the third one now.
community collaborate. Yeah, we get the point. Though, for values.
Just because I'm on the spot here.
Yeah.
So all that to say, we've morphed the pitch and picks now, which happen 3 times a year. We have an annual event at the end of each year now. All the companies that go through, typically 75 companies or so, the ones that are invited to pitch at the annual pitch and pick are eligible to win up to $17,000 in prize money. At the very early stage, that is a ton of cash.
Yeah.
And it's an invite-only event. It's kind of our big to-do each year. They're going to present their validated ideas to a panel of industry experts, so people who are in the industry locally, people who know what they're talking about. There might be some venture capitalists there. There might be investors there, participants who are going to help them grow as companies. And the goal really is to deliver a persuasive, concise pitch of under 4 minutes that clearly outlines the value proposition, their problem, their solution, the market potential, and the plans for their venture. So it's a really cool thing. I believe we have a cool host this year. Is
Yeah,
that
I'm
correct?
going to be one of the judges. So I'm going on a trip overseas, and then when I get back, I think it's the first week when I'm back on the show, just after Remembrance Day, right? So it's, I think that is the 15th, maybe 14th, anyway,
It
somewhere
is
around
the
there.
13th.
13th.
Yep, November 13th.
It's in my calendar.
Yeah. So that's really exciting. Thanks for letting me tell people a little bit about Genesis, because we've been talking about it, but it's nice for people to actually know what that means.
Well, I think it's really helpful because when you're looking at the tech industry and wondering, like, how do you go from having an idea to actually having a company with employees and try to grow it, and you'll through like paying attention to the news, or if like every so often names will stick with you, and this is really helping kind of fill in some of that. Who here has been at you guys did the pitch and pick, right? What was it like?
We did, yeah.
Was it so like were you nervous? Like did you like?
And what was the outcome of that pitch and pick?
Yeah, we won that pitch and pick last
that's
year.
right,
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, what you have to keep in mind is that, like Dean said, 100 or so companies coming through evolution initially, then getting filtered down, and there's only 6 of us pitching, and they were all great companies. Right?
Yeah.
So I mean, we were pretty proud just to be there.
Totally.
Pitching. And then to win, everybody who pitched deserved to win, and to get that win, it's a big stamp of approval. So we can brag about that right up until November the 13th, I guess. maybe
Yes, so
longer.
we get the next one. I'm curious, guys. Whenever we have these discussions, right, I think this is a provincial show. People across Newfoundland and Labrador are listening. We talk a lot about the economy. We've talked about the cost of living here on the show a lot, and when I look at the tech industry, what's something that, for folks to understand what it can mean to Newfoundland and Labrador, right? Because we're hearing a lot of great ideas, the effort you're putting into it, and I think people can really imagine what your products can be and how they can be useful and how they're disruptors. But what about for whether it's staff or money or just the diversification of the economy? Like, what do you think this industry means to this province and where it's headed?
I mean, I'll jump in. I used to be on the board for TechNL years ago when it was called Natty. And there's been a step change in the province. And if you look at everything around us, technology is integrated in everything. It's not its own sector. If you look at fishery, mining, agriculture, tourism, everything has an element of technology integrated into it. And now with AI coming, there's another element of integration. So for our province, there's a lot of opportunity to leverage the technologies that are available. And COVID showed you could be anywhere in the world and have a global organization and be successful globally. So that's broken down some barriers. But now looking at some of our comparative advantages, like we have resources. What can we do with the technology to take those resources and do more with? So there's an ample opportunity for all these companies like ours, but others, to get engaged. And yesterday at the at the kickoff of the conference for Innovation Week, the Premier spoke. And he talked a lot about technology, and he really talked about when he came in, how he really focused on IET and putting technology into the name, and looking at how do we diversify our economy. We've got natural resources that are great, but they're volatile. What can we do to cushion that and build up another economy around it? So I think, like, looking forward to the future, technology will impact everybody. It's not an urban thing. It's Newfoundland and Labrador. The more we invest in it, the more we invest in our kids and get them ramped up, I think the opportunity is endless. And it allows, as well, if you look at the next generation, they're all using their iPhones. They're all connected. They want to have jobs with that connectivity. So it's on us as some of us in the room that are a bit older, to make sure we bring that into our kids and make that opportunity there. So ton of opportunity.
Yeah, and I mean, the days are gone where it's like, we've got a web page and an email address. It's like, oh, done for the business. You're like, no, everyone's a tech company now, no matter what you're doing, because that is just the world we live in. So yes, exactly, right? It's so easy to start to imagine. And then I find people here like to talk a lot about, like, homegrown solutions. So imagine if you got like a company with the AI that helps like the bureaucracy do stuff a little bit better. It's a homegrown solution, but then also you get folks across Canada and the States and everywhere else
Just jump in for a second, Adam. Like, if you think about healthcare, some of the challenges we're having here in Newfoundland and Labrador, just the cost of healthcare, the impact, like, those are challenges in other jurisdictions that are 1 or 2 years behind. If we could solve those challenges here, then we also have products and solutions and services that we can export to other jurisdictions. So it's not just opportunity making our province better, it's about creating new business, GDP coming in, and looking at some things that might be barriers today as opportunities down the road to make the world a better place and Newfoundland and Labrador a better place.
Well, you think about you made me think of this, the have-not province kind of concept. I don't know if that's still a thing that we talk about, but
I think anyone listening will know what you mean. Yeah.
Right, right. But if when these guys become uber successful, what's going to happen? They're registered in Newfoundland and Labrador. They're going to pay tax dollars to Newfoundland and Labrador. Like, it's that significant. Do you think Veristart has provided financial benefit, or Verifin, sorry. But I was thinking future tense. Future tense.
Next 5 years from now, yeah.
But do you think Verifin, the acquisition of Verifin, has provided substantial financial remuneration for the province, and therefore fixing our roads and doing all that stuff that you'll hear people complain about on shows like this?
People have been known to complain about the roads in Newfoundland and Labrador, yes.
Right? And the odd pothole. But I really think that the outcomes, the significance of the impact that can be made by these amazing companies when they grow, when they become significant in size and scope, is monumental. And that's what I get excited about. Like, when these guys become multimillionaires and the province gets healthier because of it and richer because of it, and is able to fix healthcare because of it and all those things, that's exciting. That's super cool. And you guys don't even think about that on a daily basis. But that's what you're actually aspiring to do, which is super amazing.
Yeah, I mean, problem solving on a provincial scale to help folks. It's amazing, really, when you think about people who are throwing themselves into trying to fix problems for a living, right? And then especially given how hard it is, from which I've been gathered from talking to you guys here today. Any thoughts?
Well, I think like one of the biggest competitive advantage of Canada, and specifically Newfoundland, is the talent and the people here. So, like, one of the goals at Genesis is after 3 years we get to a point that we have 1 million revenue. So that comes with tax payments as well. But again, getting back, I think we really need to focus on advanced technologies rather than only extracting natural resources. And because with a small idea, like mine or any of other guys here, we can basically build a company of thousands of people like Verifin. So I see that potential for any of us to be the next Verifin, honestly. And that brings more employees to the companies, more jobs to the province and Canada in whole. But that needs to have that focus on advanced technologies again. Like, that can be IoT technologies. I think Newfoundland specifically is very good on the software side, although all of us today are mostly hardware companies. But but again, all of us are still working on a part of software as well. Like, we're building softwares as well as a part of our hardware system. So focusing on those would be beneficial. And so with a small team, you can bring a lot of revenue, and then you can scale up. So Verifin is a company, and how many of people you know that work in Verifin? So it brings up a lot of opportunities. Think of, we have like 25, 30 Verifins. So it's going to be a big opportunity then.
Do you think for folks here to kind of understand that, because growing up, if you're from Newfoundland, Labrador, Canadian, it's that natural resources side. But then, and I'll say, like, I'm going to South Korea on vacation to visit my in-laws and stuff. This is a country that does not have natural resources, but has a pretty darn good economy because they're used to making stuff, and they're big into the tech side of things. How much do you guys think it'll take to get folks to really understand that the human potential of what we have here and for the ecosystem in Newfoundland and Labrador?
I graduated from College of the North Atlantic, program analyst in 2004. 80% of the people in my graduating class went to the States or the mainland.
Yeah.
So, but it was a lot of really smart people, really trained really well, that had the potential to contribute so much locally, but there was just nothing there for us. I was lucky enough I didn't have to go. So I just see, when you talk about startups, I just see, and we're using Verifin as an example, but yeah, I just see the potential for any of us to just capitalize on, Newfoundlanders are great workers, smart, resilient. All the people coming here are as well, and just being able to stick a company here and build it up and fill it with Newfoundlanders and the people moving to our province, that's truly a goal of mine, because I think it's a beautiful province. I love it here, and I want people to come here and work for my billion-dollar company someday.
Well said. Anyone else final thoughts? We got a minute left.
I don't think we can overstate how much of an impact the Verifin story has had, right? So there's an excitement around tech now in Newfoundland, and you got not only Verifins, but you got collabs and spellbooks and stuff all coming up and doing amazing, huge things. It's an exciting time for people to get involved in tech, and it's an exciting time for people to invest and support those tech companies.
And we have opportunity here, like IET, NRC, ACOA. We've got Memorial University Center for Entrepreneurship. We've got Bounce Health Innovation. We've got Tech NL. It's all here for you if you want it.
It's all around, right? You guys gonna be at the Innovation Week tomorrow?
Yes.
All right, I'll see you all there. I'm hosting the award show tomorrow, so Innovation Week, and it's at the Convention Center, right? I don't want to go to the wrong place. Okay, good. Just double checking. All right, thanks so much for this, guys. I appreciate the conversation.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that's it for the show today. Thank you, Dean McIsaac, Alan Smith, Craig Hannum, Aj Pandi, Salar Salahi. Thank you so much, folks, for that great discussion today. Tomorrow, different show, different topics. We're talking about the top international headlines of the week from the Middle East to U.S. politics. How are you affected by these stories? Are you following them? Are you tuning them out? Why do you think they matter for us here and also everyone else around the world? I've got a couple of guests coming in who will help us wade through the storylines and talk about why they matter. That's tomorrow. Until then, thanks for listening, folks.